Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to I Loaf You. Today we are going to be making pierogi. We are going to be making the sauerkraut pierogi that my family has always had for our traditional Polish Christmas Eve dinner. So we're going to start off by putting 1/4 pound or 1 stick of margarine in our pan over a medium heat, and we want to melt that completely before we add in our other ingredients. Now we are going to add in our sauerkraut. Here I have 3 cans of sauerkraut, which have been drained and rinsed thoroughly. You don't want any of the brine that the sauerkraut is in ending up in here. So now to that, we want to add an equal amount of shredded cabbage as we have sauerkraut. So it's going to probably fill your pan up. And you just want to mix that all together as best you can. That way it cooks nice and evenly. And we are going to add to that now 4 medium chopped onions. And again, just mix that all together. Now we're going to add in our black pepper. My family puts a lot of black pepper in most everything. So just take it slow. You can always add more in the end, so don't start off by adding too much. So we'll just get that all mixed in, and we are going to cover our pan over the heat. And you want to just continuously mix it throughout the cooking process until it is done. Just keep in mind here that from beginning to end, our filling took an 1.5 hours to cook completely, and you will see here how the color changes as it cooks, so you will be able to know when it's done. But it did take a full 1.5 hours, so just make sure that you plan enough time. going to start making our dough. So we're going to start with 5 cups of Hecker's white flour in our mixer bowl. And we are going to add to that 5 eggs, which we've just hand beaten with a fork on the side. Now my grandma swears that the Hecker's flour is the key to this dough, so we are definitely going to use that. And we are going to add in, that was 3/4 of a cup of cold water, and we just want to start mixing this together. Now keep in mind that if you're in a drier climate or it's a little drier that day, that your dough may be a little dry and you may need to add some water. As you will see here, when we get a little further mixed, we do add just a little bit more water. We added in about 2 tablespoons extra of water just so that it completely comes together. Now we're going to completely mix this together in the mixer. The longer you knead it in the mixer, the less you have to knead it by hand after you take it out of the mixer. If you're doing it completely by hand, you're probably going to be kneading for quite a while. But you will see here exactly what it looks like as it comes together and how soft it is when we take it out of the mixer as well. Then I did hand knead it for about 2 to 3 minutes afterwards on our work table so that it came completely together. As I said before, we're starting here with our hand kneading. Now this process did take about 2 to 3 minutes, just pulling it back and kneading it into itself. You want to work with a little bit of flour on your bench and adding more as needed if it gets a little bit too sticky for you. And just get it to come completely together until it's a little bit difficult to knead. And then we will leave it on the bench to sit and rest for about 30 minutes if you are going to be hand rolling out the sheets of dough to form. I'm lucky enough that I have a sheeter that I'm able to use to roll out my dough, so I didn't need to let it rest quite as long. But if you are hand rolling, again, you want to let it rest a good 30 minutes, and if it's still too stiff to roll nice and thin, you can just let it rest for a little bit longer. are going to divide our dough into 4 parts to roll it out. Since we are using a sheeter, that's probably few enough pieces for us. If you are rolling it out by hand, you may want to start with 6 or 8 pieces to make it easier on you rolling it out. Now you want to make it thin enough that it's not going to tear, but not too thick. You can always take some and test putting a little bit of filling in it to see if it is too thin, and you can always let it rest again and re-roll it if need be. Now we have a pierogi mold, so we are going to lay our dough right out on that, and we want to spoon our filling in right into each slot and just press it down so that it makes a nice full pierogi. And now we have rolled out our top sheet the same way. You just want to cover it up completely. And since we are working with a mold, we are going to roll over the top with a heavier rolling pin, just so that it presses down and cuts, so that we have all of our pierogies ready to go. So we can just flip the mold, and we still have the edges are able to rest and be reused. have our pierogies rolled out, we are going to line them all up on a sheet pan, and we want to make all of the pierogies up front. This size batch makes, we got 42 out of the batch. So we want to set those aside, and we are going to melt a little bit of margarine again in a saucepan with some more chopped onions. And we want to just layer those in a pan, because as we cook our pierogies, we are going to take them out of the boiling water and drain them. And then we want to move them onto that so that they don't stick to the pan. So we're going to put them in boiling water. We usually only do 6 at a time, that way it doesn't get too out of hand. They cook very evenly that way. My grandparents have done it that way forever. And you cook it for 10 minutes. Take them out of the boiling water, and we will drain them. You can see here that they're floating, so they are definitely done. And we just want to make sure that we get all of the water out. Now that they are out of the water, we just want to drain them completely, and we are going to then layer them right on top of the margarine and onions. They're very good served with the margarine and onion mixture placed on top of them as well. This way we can keep them in the oven to keep them warm while we cook the rest of the pierogies, and they won't stick to the bottom of our pan. As always, I want to wish you luck and thank you for watching. Please subscribe to our channel so that you can see more of our